going on, everybody? Jack Acid here with ApexHead.com, bringing you episode 15 of the F1 2012 I Am No Expert Career Mode series. And as you can see, we are kicking off our weekend here at Suzuka in Japan. And here in practice, you can see we have an R&D objective, so of course we're going to take a look at that. And the objective here is to complete 3 laps without using our KERS, and if we're able to do so, we get a 5% increase in rear stability. And I'll be totally honest with you off the record, I failed this multiple times. I would use my KERS at the very last second and actually had to redo it, I think about 4 times, as pathetic as that is. And oftentimes I was like very near the end and just would coincidentally hit the controller or just out of sheer instinct, you know, go a little bit wide somewhere. And so it was actually more difficult than I expected, but I think a lot of that has to do with muscle memory. So skipping ahead here to qualifying, team objective is to finish in 8th. And as you can see, weather will not be a factor. And you may have noticed that I've started posting annotations during this sequence. Basically, that's just a link that would open a new tab to my website that has a list of resources for setups. Actually, just redirects to other websites, to be perfectly frank with you. More like a glorified bookmark page. But anyway, if you come across any resources online in your internet travels that you think have some validity, feel free to send it my way, and maybe I'll add it to the website. And have to apologize, I have no idea what happened to my Q1 files. I went to edit this and my Q1 file was nowhere to be found. I had a similar problem at Singapore where I lost some capture or had some issues. And so I'm going to have to check my USB device and make sure that it's working okay. So I apologize for that, but the story of Q1 was not a pretty one. I was only able to get 16th, which as we know is only 1 short of the bubble to get into Q2. And so I was very alarmed by that. I felt pretty good on the circuit. I'm not sure what was going on. I almost wonder if the AI on Suzuka is just particularly fast. As you can see here, having all kinds of problems coming out of the exit on the final corner and getting all kinds of pressure from the cars behind and not able to improve my time at all. And you can see that my tires are pretty worn out. Going to go ahead and roll it back into the garage and let the times roll. And looking at the pace of the AI, they're running in the 138 range. I was running in the 139s in Q1, but again, that wasn't good for a very good position. So really concerned at this point about my chances here in Q2, but going to go ahead and throw in a fresh set of options and let the time go down a little bit and go back out. And I was able to get in 5 laps, but as you can see, just never able to improve. The session has expired, and P16 is going to be the best I can do. So obviously very, very disappointing for myself and the team, and engineer letting me know about it here. And to make matters worse, Roman Grosjean, our season rival, qualified P4, so that's a whopping 12 positions between the two of us. And that's going to mean having a whole lot of work to do here on race day. Let's see if we can at least make it close. Team objective is to finish 9th. And taking a look at the starting grid, Sebastian Vettel on pole position with Michael Schumacher in P4 and Bruno Senna qualifying in 10th in the Williams. And a very surprising P17 for Mark Webber in the Red Bull. And looking at the bottom of the grid, my teammate Kamui Kobayashi qualifying in P24. So not sure if he had a problem with the car or if he wasn't able to go out or what happened to him, but I'm not going to complain because it should mean that we should be able to beat him, at least in the teammate challenge. So taking a quick look at our race fuel strategy, and you can see setting that to normal and due to pit for the prime tires on lap 5. Definitely had some problems with my tire wear in Singapore, but I also ran them down pretty good in qualifying, so that was basically my fault. And hoping here at Suzuka, where I had another very difficult qualifying session and probably ran my tires down a little more than I'd like to. Hopefully it won't be as big of a factor. Remember, the Sauber in real life, the 2012 season, was very good on its tires. And so up until Singapore, I had been managing them pretty well, but all of a sudden it's a factor. And again, the pace is all of a sudden a factor. Definitely not a good starting position here for Sauber this weekend, so let's see what Kamui and I can do to make up for it. Here on the starting grid, looking at the back of Daniel Ricciardo, former teammate with Toro Rosso, and lined up next to Paul di Resta, and here we go to start. And here comes Mark Webber on the left-hand side, able to overtake easily, and now being overwhelmed by the Caterham of all things. Coming down here into the first turn, trying to get on the inside of Webber. Let's see if we can get in behind Ricciardo, and you can see not able to get around him. Now 3 cars wide coming out of turn 2. Heading into the S-curves, very congested, and slight contact there, a little bit of wing damage. Saw a little bit of carbon fiber fly, but not enough to register damage on the damage meter. Now trying to get around the Force India car and follow Mark Webber through this midfield. And unfortunately for me, not able to improve my starting position of 16th at all. Kind of an unusual happenstance, usually able to climb up a few spots through the first couple of corners, and have to be honest, that probably sets up for disaster for this race. It seems like on professional I have a very difficult time keeping up with the AI and spend a lot of time trying to fend them off. So probably better suited for intermediate, but I've been playing on professional for 2 or 3 seasons now, so feel foolish going back now. And exploiting Mark Webber here at the hairpin, you can see able to get around him, and Mark Webber came into the back of Ricardo coming up to that corner. And I'm not sure what's happened to Mark's car, but now the entire field falling behind like there was an incident. Now wheel-to-wheel with Ricardo, getting driven off onto the lawn, coming up to the spoon curve, and drifting wide here. Don't want to have any contact with the Toro Rosso. Unfortunately, able to keep it out of the gravel. But again, because of that incident from behind there, you can see that drifting wide doesn't cost me. Able to keep the P15 spot for now as I chase Ricardo down into a very fast turn 15, one of the funnest corners in the game. Just lift for like a split second. Get the nose pointed in the right direction. Now coming down into the Casio Triangle, turns 16, 17, and 18. Here to conclude lap 1 and trying to stick with Ricardo, especially coming down this long straight and hoping that I can gain some ground on the Toro Rossos. And taking a lightning quick look at our tires and fuel, you can see that my tires were actually pretty worn down. Not a good sign. Remember, we're due to pit at the end of lap 5 and only have 3 extra laps of fuel, so not going to worry about using that until I get on the prime tires, but normally I would have about 5 laps of fuel. So as you can see here later in lap 2, hitting a purple sector time in sector 1. So feeling pretty good about the pace and keeping the Toro Rosso in our sight. Let's see if we can do something up here at the hairpin. Yes, able to get around both cars now. And contact from behind, I can actually hear that they probably came into contact as we came out of the exit. So that's a little bit unfortunate. But now Jean-Eric Verne has overtaken Ricardo. And obviously Ricardo not going to be happy with me, especially being his ex-teammate. And I guess the fact that I overtook both Toro Rossos on one turn was sort of a proverbial FU back at the team, but, you know, I'd like to think that I left the team on good terms. No reason to break bottles on a sinking ship, right? Checking on the pace here of Jean-Eric Verne coming down this long straight, you can see that I'm able to stay ahead of him, hitting another purple sector time, coming around turn 15, and hopefully won't have any late braking problems coming here into turn 16, which is easy to happen. And actually I found that lately I've been braking too soon. As you can see, that's exactly what just happened coming out of the exit, and Jean-Eric Verne able to stay right on top of us coming around at the end of lap 2, start of lap 3, and let's see what kind of pace the Toro Rosso has coming down this straight. This is the second benchmark on the circuit, and here he comes now, but I don't think he's going to have the time to get around. No, he's not, as long as we don't go wide, which is extremely easy to do. First turn is one of the most challenging turn ones on this calendar as far as I'm concerned. Now trying to negotiate through these S-sweeps. Suzuka is one of those circuits where I either totally have it or I totally don't. This weekend's been a little bit of a mixed bag. And I think oftentimes the eyeball test looks fine, but the pace just definitely isn't there this weekend. As we come up over the Dunlop curve, coming down into Degner, and coming up onto the lawn for just a second there, dropping it down into 4th gear and able to shave off just over 0.3 of a second. And a little bit of problem coming out of here, turn 9. Starting to lose my grip just a little bit. Let's see if we can keep Verne in our rear view mirrors coming around the hairpin. And a little bit of hesitation on my part, but able to stay ahead, taking the inside line there and accelerating out. And this is the only stretch of the track that I found where I'm able to stretch any kind of a gap to the AI. So trying to keep things online, coming through the very sweeping turn 12, and now into the spoon curve, turns 13 and 14, and hoping things go a little bit smoother than lap 1. And going a little bit wide here again, and still having problems with that. Have to drop it down into 2nd gear. Shouldn't have to go any lower than 3rd if you do it right, but of course not having much success. But the good news is, as you can see coming down the straight, have pretty good pace over the Toro Rosso, so I'm not too worried about him at this point, but the idea of catching Hulkenberg up in P12, we're going to have to wait and see what happens after we come out for our pit stops. That's when things will really start to shake out. Here at the start of lap 4, though, able to maintain P13, but as I mentioned, you can see there's absolutely no one in front of me anytime soon, so going to want to get in on those prime tires ASAP. So now skipping to the end of lap 4, and as you can see, my tires absolutely shot as Verne chases us down the start-finish straight. Let's see if he can get around. Looks like he's going to run out of room. Hope we don't go wide here. And again, struggling with grip. Going to have to be very, very ginger with my tires as I don't do myself any favors, go up onto the grass there. And speaking of going off, now coming through Degner 1 and 2. Very easy to go off track if you're not paying attention here. And you can see still under siege from Jean-Eric Verne, although don't have him all over our gearbox at this moment. But of course losing grip on the tires. And speaking of losing grip, going off onto the lawn here. And now competing not only with the tire degradation, but of course the grass. And limping this thing into the pit row. Let's see what happens with Verne. And he's going to stay out, so he's going to get by. And frankly, that's a great relief to me, although, of course, we'll have to wait and see who we come out in front of. But I don't drive well at Suzuka under pressure. Don't typically drive well under pressure in general. So let's see what the team can do for us here. Getting us out in under 3.2 seconds, so a decent pit stop time. Not exactly sure what the delta time is here at Suzuka, but let's see what happens. You can see Charles Peak coming down now. He's going to be able to get around us as we get out of the pit lane. So coming out behind a back marker, that's a disappointment. But of course we do have the cold tires, so not exactly running as fast as we could be anyway. So trying to chase the Marussia down here at the hairpin and braking a little bit late. Maybe the cold tires, not sure what happened. Going wide here, maybe a little spooked by my excursion earlier on. And mercifully here at the end of lap 6, Charles Peak goes in. But as you can see, pit road totally clear of cars. So this is an organic P14, which means I've got a lot of work to do. And this is basically summing up to be probably my worst race of the season. But what's all this commotion going on up here? It looks like one of the Lotus cars, and yes it is, Roman Grosjean, a rival, trying to get back on track, and now wheel to wheel with him as we come through the start of the S-sweeps, able to get up into P13. And it looks like he and Felipe Massa had some kind of a tangle coming out of the first turn, and we were there to pick up the spoils. That's unbelievable luck. And so despite our poor position, at least we've got one position up on arrival, but unfortunately for me it's only lap 8, and you can see just what kind of pressure Grosjean is putting me under, and this is going to take everything I've got to get it through to the end of the race ahead of Grosjean. And don't forget, Kamui Kobayashi, our teammate, started off in P24, so hard to say what's happened to him in this race. We'll have to wait and see what happens at the end. Got to focus on the task at hand, coming around the hairpin. And as you can see, not taking any chances, making sure that I brake with plenty of time to cut off the inside part of the track there. So coming around here for the start of lap 9, and now you can see that actually that looks like our teammate, the orange or yellow dot in the minimap. I believe that's our teammate Kamui Kobayashi, so he's currently running P15. And now not only having to fend off Grosjean, but also our teammate as I start to go wide here coming out of the first turn. And a little bit of wheel spin trying to get back online. Grosjean not able to make a move, but now chasing me down through these S-sweeps. And right now the head of the 3-car train as we try and get through here and come up onto Dunlop. Let's see what happens. Dunlop is very, very easy to go wide into the sand trap right here. And still don't have it totally down. And as you can see, the AI able to catch up with me easily. And it's going to be 3 cars coming through Degner and hoping to avoid the sand trap there. And this is also very tight, although I've been pretty conservative on that particular corner for this race. And looking behind, look at Grosjean all over us coming up to the hairpin, and I've got a lot at stake here. Even though points not going to be an option, that's for sure. There'd have to be a major problem up ahead for that to happen at this point, even though I can't see cars on the minimap. But at least be able to finish in front of Grosjean. Mostly Grosjean, more so than my teammate. The season is reaching a near close as I start to lose the grip here, and here comes Grosjean coming around the spoon curve. He's having a look on the inside, but not able to make it happen. He's got plenty of opportunity here using the DRS. Let's see if he tries to make a move on the inside. Going to try and hold my position coming down, and for whatever reason, he's not able to get ahead of me. Sauber running pretty fast in a straight line and hoping to avoid mistakes coming into the Casio triangle. And I gotta be honest with you, I'm not sure if I can handle 4 more laps of this kind of pressure, trying to not have any wheel spin coming off the curbs here. And as you can see, Grosjean able to fall back just a little bit here and losing time on the lap. We did have some problems with wheel spin coming out of some of the corners. And so now trying to keep things tidy as we come down into the first turn. And you can see that going a little bit wide coming around the second bend, Grosjean having a look on the inside, backing off now. And able to keep him in our rear view mirrors for now. So skipping ahead to the middle of lap 12, still able to keep Grosjean behind somehow, some way. And let's see what happens coming around the spoon curve. And still under heavy pressure from Grosjean. It was mentioned by my engineer a couple of laps ago that he had front wing damage, but as you can see, not affecting his pace at all. But then again, I'm having my own struggles. So now coming down the crossover straight, changing my fuel mix to rich, and Grosjean making a move on the left-hand side here, and it looks like he's going to have the room, and he's able to get around. Now coming through turn 15, cars touching, almost locking up onto the grass for just a moment, but falling behind Grosjean, coming through Casio, and braking late. Dirty tires not doing me any favors. Now wheel-to-wheel coming around turn 17, and there goes the Lotus. So here at the start of lap 13, Grosjean finally able to get ahead of me. Let's see if we can keep pace coming down the start-finish straight. Looks like we'll be able to, but it's going to be a very tricky overtaking situation here through turn 1. Let's see what happens. Going to stay on the outside and try and drift in. And able to get around him, no contact there. And able to make the overtake stick here as we start the S-sweeps. And Grosjean and I are scrapping big time at this point. And this has been a pressure cooker race for sure. We've been dueling for the better part of 7 laps now. And I've got 1 lap to go, and I really don't want to lose it, that's for sure. There was a radio transmission just a moment ago that Kamui was back in the pits, so obviously some kind of problem where he had to pit a second time. And so that's going to mean that Kamui is out of our way in terms of the teammate challenge. Just got to stay ahead of Grosjean. Remember, we've beaten him 2 or 3 races in a row, actually, so trying to stay perfect here. And again, I'm anxious to see what happens at the end of the season to find out if I get a contract offer from Lotus, although I've got a feeling that I won't. Pretty ugly going through the hairpin there, but the only objective at this point is to stay ahead of Grosjean. And a little concerned coming around the spoon curve down to the crossover straight, what's going to happen with the pace? As long as we don't go wide here, you can see I'm being very, very careful. Not interested in making any mistakes, would rather be a little bit slower and not compromise the car going offline than trying to stay quick at this point. So you can see still have an extra lap of fuel. I've been burning off the extra fuel with the high fuel mix. Coming around turn 15, not going wide. And all we have to do now is stick with it, coming through Casio and rolling up over the curve there, cutting off for just a moment and able to keep it between the candy stripes and come around. And we are going to finish in P13 ahead of Grosjean. So again, a disappointment for Sauber, no question about it. Missed our team objective, but at least we were able to beat out our teammate. And Grosjean, you can see Kamui ended up finishing 16th, and of course Grosjean 14th. So that was a extremely tense race for me. Let's take a quick look at the final results here. Sebastian Vettel able to win, and Alonso and Button rounding out the podium, and Bruno Senna able to finish in 8th spot, so that's a good result for Williams. And taking a look at the middle of the grid, Mark Webber down at P15. And now trying to figure out with the engineer what's going on with the pace of the car. A disappointing weekend for the team. But hopefully things are going to improve heading on to South Korea, which is going to be the next race. And again, we are nearing the end of the season. Pretty anxious to get to Austin, Texas. That'll be my first career race on the new circuit. But again, have to go through Korea first, so hopefully you'll join me then. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you have any interest in the actual sport of Formula One, I do Grand Prix reviews and podcasts, and you can find those on my website, ApexHead.com. And I dabbled in that a little bit last year, but decided to commit a full season for 2013, so we'll see how that pans out. And if you haven't had a chance to check out my new Grid series, if you're a big fan of Codemasters games, I encourage you to do that. It's been getting pretty good feedback from my subscribers. I want to thank everybody for their feedback and kind words on that. I do appreciate it. So going to leave you guys with this final duel here with Grosjean. The fight will continue on. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.